3 weeks later, the largest fleet in galactic history gathered near New Harmony. 196 ships from 12 different races floated in space, waiting for the enemy to arrive. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel Terra's Pride. She had been chosen to command the combined fleet, not because she was the highest-ranking officer, but because she was human. The aliens had finally admitted they needed someone who could think like their enemy. "Status report," Sarah asked her communication officer. "All ships in position. Mixed crews on every vessel. Chaos tactics loaded into the battle computers." Sarah nodded. It had taken 2 weeks to train alien crews to fight like humans. Teaching peaceful races to be unpredictable was like teaching cats to bark. But they had tried their best. General Ironwood's voice crackled over the radio from his ship. Long-range sensors showed the Devourer fleet approaching. "They'll be here in 6 hours. "How many ships?" Sarah asked. "Over 3,000. And Sarah, they're not just Devourer ships anymore. I'm seeing designs from a dozen different species." They've been busy. Sarah felt a chill. The Devourers had absorbed the technology of every race they had conquered on, their way to the core worlds. Their fleet was now a mixture of the best weapons and ships from across the galaxy. Jake Morrison was aboard Sarah's ship as a tactical advisor. He had spent the last 3 weeks studying every piece of data they had about the Devourers. "They're connected," he reminded Sarah. "Every ship, every creature, all thinking together. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. How? Do we break the connection? Overload it. Give them so many different threats at once that their hive mind can't process them all." Dr. Veltar worked at a science station nearby. His crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "The mathematical models show it should work, but only if we can maintain chaos for at least 30 minutes. 30 minutes of pure madness," Sarah said. "Can our people do that?" "They'll have to," Jake replied. The Devourer fleet arrived exactly when the sensors predicted. They came out of hyperspace in perfect formation, thousands of ships arranged in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. "They're beautiful," whispered Captain Hayes from her ship. "Terrible, but beautiful." The enemy fleet moved toward New Harmony with purpose. They didn't seem worried about the small galactic defense force. Why would they be? They outnumbered the defenders 15 to 1. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell," Sarah announced. "Remember your training. Think chaos. Act random. Confuse them, then hit them, then run. Don't try to be heroes. Just try to be unpredictable." The battle began with the strangest first move in military history. Instead of attacking the Devourer fleet, Sarah ordered all ships to scatter in random directions. Some went up, some went down, some went sideways. A few ships actually flew away from the battle entirely. The Devourer fleet paused. Their perfect formation wavered as they tried to understand what the defenders were doing. "Now," Sarah ordered. The chaos began. Captain Ben Rodriguez, still commanding his patched-together ship New Frontier, attacked the rear of the Devourer fleet while playing old Earth music at maximum volume. The sound confused the enemy's sensors and covered the approach of 3 Corvin fighters. Dr. Veltar had rigged his science ship to broadcast fake distress signals on 17 different frequencies. Half the Devourer fleet turned to investigate what looked like major emergencies, only to find empty space. The Zephyrian cargo haulers had been converted into flying bombs. But instead of ramming enemy ships, they flew close enough to make the Devourers think they were going to ram, then turned away at the last second. It was psychological warfare against a species that didn't understand psychology. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers were confused. Their hive mind was getting too much information to process. Ships that should have been destroyed were still fighting. Enemies that should have been predictable kept doing impossible things. "It's working," Jake reported, watching the sensor displays. "Their formation is breaking apart." But the Devourers were fast learners. After 15 minutes of chaos, they started to adapt. Their ships began ignoring the false signals and focusing on real threats. "They're figuring us out," Captain Hayes warned. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now." Sarah had been saving her best move for last. "All ships, execute Plan Crazy." Plan Crazy was the most insane military strategy ever attempted. Every ship in the fleet would attack the center of the Devourer formation at the same time, but each would take a completely different route. No coordination, no timing, no backup plans. Just pure random aggression. The Galactic fleet charged into the heart of the enemy formation like a swarm of angry bees. Ships twisted and spun and dove in patterns that made no sense. Some fired all their weapons at once. Others held their fire until the last second. A few rammed enemy ships on purpose. Others ran away and came back for another try. The Devourer hive mind couldn't handle it. With thousands of different threats coming from all directions, their perfect coordination broke down. Ships started firing on each other. Formation leaders gave contradictory orders. For the first time in their long existence, the Devourers panicked. That's when Jake saw their chance. There, he pointed at the sensor display. That huge ship in the center, it's their command vessel. All the communication signals are coming from there. If we take out their command ship, we break their network, Sarah realized. But the command ship was surrounded by hundreds of defenders. Getting close enough to attack it seemed impossible. "I can do it," Captain Rodriguez said over the radio. "My ship is already falling apart. One more crazy stunt won't make much difference." "Ben, no," Sarah started to say. "Too late," Ben replied. "New Frontier is already committed." Rodriguez's jury-rigged ship plowed through the Devourer fleet like a battering ram. Its mismatched armor and improvised weapons confused the enemy sensors. They couldn't tell if it was a warship, a cargo hauler, or a flying junk pile dot by the time they realized it was all three. It was too late. New Frontier rammed into the Devourer command ship with enough force to crack both vessels in half. But instead of exploding, Ben had rigged his ship to do something much worse. It broadcast every piece of contradictory information the humans had learned about fighting chaos warfare directly into the Devourer communication network. The result was spectacular. Every Devourer ship in the fleet received orders to attack in 12 different directions at once. Their hive mind tried to process commands that canceled each other out. Ships flew into each other. Weapons fired at random targets. The perfect alien coordination collapsed into perfect alien confusion. "Now we run," Sarah ordered. The Galactic fleet scattered again, but this time they took millions of refugees with them, while the Devourers were paralyzed by their own conflicting orders. Rescue ships evacuated the populations of 6 core worlds. It wasn't a victory. The Devourers would eventually sort out their confusion and regroup. But it was something the galaxy hadn't had for weeks. Time. The surviving fleet regrouped at the edge of civilized space. They had lost 37 ships, but they had saved over 8 billion lives. What happens now? Ambassador Kethrai asked during the emergency council meeting. "Now we keep fighting," Sarah replied, "but not the way we just did. They'll adapt to our chaos tactics. We need to be ready with something new." General Ironwood smiled at the human admiral. "What do you suggest?" "Guerrilla warfare. Hit and run attacks. Make them chase us across the galaxy while we pick off their ships one by one." Dr. Veltar's crystal body flickered with new hope. "It could work. If we can keep them confused and divided, maybe we can wear them down." Jake stood up in the council chamber. 6 months ago, He had been sitting in this same room while alien races debated whether humans were too dangerous to trust. "You asked if humanity was the universe's biggest threat," he said. "Maybe we are, but we're your threat. We're dangerous to your enemies, not to you." Ambassador Kethrai looked around at his fellow council members. The vote was unanimous. "Welcome to the galactic community," he said to Jake and Sarah. "We're sorry it took a war to make us understand." The war against the Devourers would continue for another 2 years. It would be fought the human way, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to give up. The galaxy would learn that sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is be ready for war. And humanity would take its place not as conquerors, but as guardians. The dangerous species that kept the peaceful ones safe, the universe's biggest threat, had become its greatest protector. In the end, that made all the difference. The journey to Crystal Falls took 8 days. Jake spent most of that time learning to work with the alien crew members. It wasn't easy. Commander Rick Stone was trying to teach basic combat tactics to a group of Zephyrian engineers. The blue-skinned aliens had volunteered to help, but their genetic changes made it almost impossible for them to think about violence. "If someone shoots at you, you shoot back," Rick explained for the 10th time. "But why would anyone shoot at us?" asked Engineer Tamara. "We haven't done anything wrong. The Devourers don't care if you've done something wrong. They just want to eat you." Tamara looked confused. "Eat us? But we taste terrible. Too much metal in our diet." Rick rubbed his forehead. Training peaceful aliens to fight was like teaching fish to fly. Dr. Veltar was easier to work with. His crystal body couldn't hold weapons the way humans could, but his scientific mind was sharp. He spent hours studying the old Devourer files, looking for weaknesses. "They adapt to everything," he told Jake. "Every time we fought them before. They learned from our tactics. By the end of the war, they could predict every move we made. What if we don't use tactics?" Jake asked, "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we just make things up as we go? What if we're so random that even we don't know what we're doing?" Dr. Veltar's crystal body flickered. "That sounds chaotic." "Exactly." Captain Hayes called them to the bridge as they approached. Crystal Falls. The colony should have been a bright spot of light against the dark moon's surface. Instead, it was dark except for strange red glows in some areas. "Life signs?" Hayes asked. "Confusing," her sensor officer replied. "I'm reading millions of life forms, but the patterns are all wrong. Like they single quotes read different somehow." "Different how?" "I don't know. The computer can't identify what species they are." Hayes made her decision quickly. "We go in fast and quiet. Rescue anyone we can find. Get out before the main Devourer force knows we're here." The 3 human ships dropped toward the moon's surface. As they got closer, they could see the colony more clearly. The buildings were still there, but they had been changed. Strange growths covered the walls. Twisted metal structures reached up toward the sky like dead trees. "My God," Dr. Veltar whispered, "what did they do to my people?" They landed near the colony's edge, in an area that looked empty. Jake suited up with the assault team, 12 humans, 3 Corvin warriors, and 2 very nervous Zephyrian engineers. The surface of the moon was airless and cold. Their boots crunched on ice as they moved toward the nearest building. Nothing seemed to be moving, but Jake felt like they were being watched. "Motion sensors are going crazy," Rick reported through the radio. "Something's definitely alive in there." They reached the building and looked through a window. What they saw made Jake's stomach turn. Creatures that had once been Nexari were working at strange machines. But they weren't the same crystal beings anymore. Black metal had grown into their bodies. Their eyes glowed red. They moved with purpose, but not like living things. like parts of a bigger machine. "They've been changed," Dr. Valtar said, his voice full of horror. "The Devourers didn't kill them. They made them into something else." "Can they be changed back?" Jake asked. "I don't know. I don't think so." One of the creatures looked up at the window. For a moment, Jake saw something familiar in its red eyes. Fear. The thing that had been a Nexari was still aware, still trapped inside its changed body. It opened its mouth and screamed. The sound went through the walls and into their suits. Every creature in the building turned toward them. "Run," Rick said quietly. "Run." He shouted. The team sprinted away from the building as creatures poured out of every entrance. They didn't move like the slow zombies from old Earth movies. They moved fast and smart, cutting off escape routes and working together. Jake fired his weapon at the closest creature. The energy blast hit it in the chest and knocked it down, but it got back up. The metal parts of its body had absorbed the energy and used it to heal the damage. "Weapons aren't working," someone shouted. "Keep running," Hayes ordered from the ship. "Get to the extraction point." They reached a small hill overlooking their landing site. The ships were still there, but more creatures were coming from every direction. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "We need a distraction," Rick said. Jake looked at the Zephyrian engineers, Tamara and Bilek. They were terrified, but still thinking clearly. "Can you overload the colony's power grid?" he asked them. "Yes, but it would destroy half the colony," Tamara said. "Do it." The two engineers worked frantically on their portable computers, hacking into the colony's systems. Within minutes, explosions started going off across the settlement. Lights flashed, buildings collapsed. The creatures stopped chasing the team and turned back to deal with the emergency. "Now!" Hayes shouted. They ran for the ships as fast as they could. Jake was the last one to reach the landing ramp. As he jumped aboard, he looked back and saw something that made his blood freeze. The creatures weren't panicking about the explosions. They were already working to fix the damage, and they were doing it faster than any normal repair crew could manage. "They're not just changed," he told Dr. Valtar as the ships lifted off. "They're connected, like parts of one big mind." Dr. Valtar nodded sadly. "The Devourers don't just eat civilizations. They digest them, turn them into extensions of themselves." The flight back to New Harmony was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what they had seen. 8 million Nexari had become something else in just a few days. If the Devourers could do that to a whole colony so quickly, what would happen when they reached worlds with billions of people? But Jake was thinking about something else. The creatures had been smart and organized, but they had also been predictable. When the power grid exploded, they had all responded the same way. They were connected, which made them strong, but it also made them vulnerable. "I have an idea," he told Captain Hayes. "But it's crazy. Right now, crazy might be our best option." They reached New Harmony to find the station in chaos. Reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. More colonies had gone dark. The Devourer fleet was moving faster than anyone had expected. "They'll be here in 3 weeks," General Ironwood reported to the emergency council session. "Maybe less. What about evacuation?" Ambassador Kethrai asked. "Where would we go?" "They're coming from every direction now. It's like they're surrounding us." Jake stood up in the middle of the arguing aliens. "We can't run. We have to fight." "With what?" the insect alien demanded. "You saw what happened at Crystal Falls. Weapons don't work on them." "Then we don't use weapons," Jake said. "We use their strength against them." He explained his idea. The Devourers were connected like a hive mind. That made them powerful, but it also meant they all thought the same way. If the galaxy could confuse that hive mind, make it second-guess itself, Maybe they could break the connection. Chaos warfare, General Ironwood said, understanding immediately. Attack everything at once in patterns that make no sense. Keep them off balance. But we'd need ships, lots of them, and crews willing to fight in ways that go against everything they know about warfare. Ambassador Kethrai looked around at his fellow council members. How many ships can we gather? The answer was depressing. The combined fleets of all 12 races added up to fewer than 200 combat-capable ships. The Devourers had thousands. It's not enough, Dr. Veltar said. It is if we use them right, Jake replied. We don't need to win a big battle. We just need to break their connection long enough to rescue people and evacuate the core worlds. General Ironwood smiled. I like this. Human, he thinks like a warrior. The council voted to try Jake's plan. They had 3 weeks to gather every ship they could find and train crews in human chaos tactics. It seemed impossible, but as reports continued to come in about the Devourer advance, impossible started to look like their only choice. The great test was coming. After 3,000 years of peace, the galaxy would have to remember how to fight, and they would learn from the species they had feared most, the dangerous, adaptable, unpredictable humans. The emergency meeting started at dawn on New Harmony. General Ironwood stood at the front of the council chamber, his old hands shaking as he held the sensor reports. The readings are clear, he said. Devourer ships. At least 50 of them. Moving toward our space. Ambassador Kethrai felt his blue skin turn pale. That's impossible. The Devourers are extinct. We destroyed them 3,000 years ago. We thought we did, General Ironwood replied. But these energy signatures match their old technology exactly. They're coming from outside the galaxy, just like before. Dr. Veltar's crystal body flickered with nervous light. How far away are they? 6 months at their current speed. Maybe less if they go faster. The council chamber filled with worried sounds. Clicks, whistles, and moans echoed off the walls as 12 different races tried to understand what this meant. Jake and Lisa sat in their usual chairs in the center of the room. They had been forgotten in the panic. Everyone was too scared to worry about whether humans were dangerous. What exactly are these Devourers? Jake asked. The aliens turned to look at him like they had forgotten he was there. Death, said the insect-like alien. Pure death that eats everything. General Ironwood walked over to Jake and Lisa. The Devourers came from dark space between galaxies. They found our galaxy 5,000 years ago and started eating it, one world at a time. Eating it? Lisa asked. They don't just kill, General Ironwood explained. They absorb. Every person they capture, every piece of technology they steal, makes them smarter and stronger. They learn from every race they destroy. Jake felt a chill run down his back. How did you stop them before? Barely, General Ironwood said. It took 500 years of war. Whole species died fighting them. In the end, we only won because they got greedy and attacked too many places. At once, Ambassador Kethrai stood up, his 4 arms shaking. We must prepare defenses. Alert all the worlds. Ready the peacekeeping ships. What peacekeeping ships? General Ironwood asked. You disbanded the military 3,000 years ago, remember? Peace doesn't need weapons, you said. The truth hit the council like a slap. They had spent so long living in peace that they had forgotten how to fight. Most races had changed themselves to remove violent thoughts. They couldn't even imagine warfare anymore. The Corvin Defense Fleet still exists, General Ironwood said, but it's mostly for ceremonies now. Maybe 20 ships that can actually fight. The Nexari have some patrol boats, Dr. Veltar added, but they're not built for war. The Zephyrian Republic has cargo ships, Ambassador Kethrai said weakly. We could convert them, but it would take months. Jake looked around the room at the panicking aliens. An idea started forming in his mind. A dangerous idea. What if he didn't have to fight them alone? He said that the aliens stopped talking and stared at him. "You want our help?" Ambassador Kethrai asked. "From the species we consider too dangerous to trust?" "Sometimes dangerous is exactly what you need," Jake replied. General Ironwood's old face split into a grin. "The boy understands." Dr. Veltar's crystal body flashed red. "We can't ask the humans to fight our war. They'll want something in return. What would you want?" Ambassador Kethrai asked Jake. Jake thought for a moment. "Freedom. Let us join. The galactic community as equals. No more quarantine. No more treating us like criminals. And if we refuse?" The insect alien asked. "Then you'll fight the Devourers with 20 old ships and whatever cargo haulers you can find," Lisa said quietly. The council argued for hours. Some aliens wanted to try diplomacy with the Devourers. Others wanted to hide and hope the enemy would pass by. A few suggested evacuating the galaxy entirely. Finally, General Ironwood had enough. He slammed his fist on the table, and the whole room went quiet. "I've seen what the Devourers do," he said. "I was there during the last war. My father died fighting them. My whole planet burned because of them." The old warrior stood up straight. And suddenly he didn't look old anymore. He looked like what he was, a soldier who had never forgotten how to fight. "You call humans dangerous," he continued. "Good. The Devourers are dangerous too. Maybe it takes one monster to fight another." "Humans aren't monsters," Jake said. "No," General Ironwood agreed, "but they're close enough. And right now, that's what we need." While the council argued, reports kept coming in from the outer rim. Scout ships that went to investigate the sensor readings didn't come back. Long range. Communications went dark, one by one. Then came the message that changed everything. Captain Lucy Hayes was monitoring communications from her ship when she picked up a transmission from the outer colonies. It was weak and full of static, but the words were clear enough. "This is Crystal Falls Colony. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Unknown ships, unknown technology. They're not trying to destroy us. They're taking people, changing them. Oh God, they're changing them into something else." The transmission cut off. Dr. Veltar went very still. "Crystal Falls is an Nexari colony. 8 million of my people live there." "Lived," General Ironwood corrected gently. The council chamber filled with a sound like breaking glass as Dr. Veltar wailed for his lost people. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" Ambassador Kethrai asked. General Ironwood checked his calculations. 3 months, maybe 2. "We need more information," Lisa said. "We need to know what we're really fighting." "I volunteer to lead a scouting mission," Captain Hayes said over the communication system. "My ships are fast. We can get to Crystal Falls and back in 2 weeks. "Too dangerous," Ambassador Kethrai said. "We can't risk losing more ships." "You're going to lose a lot more than ships if you don't know what you're up against," Jake pointed out. General Ironwood nodded slowly. "The human is right. Knowledge is the first weapon in any war." "This isn't a war yet," the insect alien protested. "Yes, it is," General Ironwood said. "It started the moment the first Devourer ship entered our galaxy. The only question now is whether we fight smart or die stupid." The vote was close, 7 aliens in favor, 5 against. Captain Hayes got permission to take her 3 ships to Crystal Falls, but only if she took volunteers from other races with her. Dr. Veltar immediately volunteered. "Those are my people. I have to try to help them." Commander Rick Stone, one of Captain Ha's officers, put together a team of humans and aliens. It was the first mixed military unit in galactic history. as the small fleet prepared to leave for Crystal Falls. Jake made a decision that would change everything. "I'm going with them," he told Lisa. "You're a diplomat, not a soldier." "I'm a human," Jake replied. "And right now, that might be the most important thing I can be." The rescue fleet left New Harmony just as another report came in. The Devourer Advance Force was moving faster than expected. They had learned to use some kind of new faster-than-light drive. They would reach the core worlds in 6 weeks, not 3 months. As Jake's ship jumped into hyperspace, he thought about General Ironwood's words. Maybe it did take a monster to fight a monster. Maybe humans were exactly the kind of monster the galaxy needed. Behind them, the Galactic Council faced a terrible choice. They could try to evacuate billions of people to the far edge of the galaxy, or they could trust their worst fears to the species they feared most. Either way, the 3,000 years of galactic peace were over. The Devourers were coming home. Jake and Lisa worked day and night in their small quarters on New Harmony. They had 30 days to change the minds of 11 alien races. It seemed impossible. "What do they want to hear?" Lisa asked, looking at pages of notes spread across the table. "That we're harmless," Jake said. "That we're safe. That we'll never hurt anyone. But we can't promise that. What if someone attacks us first?" Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "That's exactly what they're afraid of." While the humans worked on their defense, the Alien Council was busy too. Dr. Veltar, a crystal being from the Nexari race, spent his time studying every piece of information about humanity they could find. The data worried him. Humans had left their home planet only 300 years ago. Most alien races took thousands of years to spread to other worlds. But humans already lived on dozens of planets and moons. They had built cities in space, farms on dead rocks, and mines inside asteroids. "Look at this," Dr. Veltar said to Ambassador Kethrai. His crystal body flashed different colors as he talked. Human Colony 47 was built on a moon with no air and no water. The temperature goes from boiling hot to freezing cold every few hours. But they made it work. "How?" Ambassador Kethrai asked. "They built underground. They brought water from ice comets. They made their own air. Most races would look at that moon and fly away. Humans saw it and said, 'We can live here, Ambassador.'" Kethrai felt a chill run through his blue skin. "They adapt too well." The crystal alien nodded, "And they do it fast." Planet Darwin was attacked by a virus that killed all plant life. The human colonists should have died. Instead, they learned to grow food in tanks filled with special water. They turned the whole planet into a giant indoor farm. "Resourceful," Ambassador Kethrai said quietly. "Dangerous," Dr. Veltar replied. "A species that can live anywhere can also take anywhere." The investigation got worse. Trade records showed that human merchants were making deals all across the galaxy. They didn't just sell things, they learned. Every trade taught them something new about alien technology, alien cultures, alien weaknesses. Captain Ben Rodriguez was exploring the edge of known space when his ship, the New Frontier, hit trouble. A strange tear in space pulled his ship inside and crushed half of it like paper. "Damage report." Ben called out as alarms screamed around him. "Hull breached in 6 places," his first officer, Maria Santos, reported. "Life support failing. Engines dead." Any normal crew would send out a distress call and wait for rescue. But Ben's crew was human. "What do we have to work with?" Ben asked. "Cargo bay full of metal sheets," said Chief Engineer Rick Stone. "Some welding equipment. A lot of hope. That'll do. Get to work." For 3 days, the crew of the New Frontier turned their broken ship into something new. They used cargo containers as hull patches. They built new air recyclers from spare parts. They even made a new engine from pieces of the old one mixed with mining equipment. When the rescue ship finally arrived, they found the new frontier not just alive, but working. The ship looked like a junk pile held together with metal tape and prayers, but it was flying. "How did you do this?" asked the rescue captain, a four-armed Zephyrian. Ben grinned. "Human engineering. If it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid." The rescue ship's captain sent a full report to the Galactic Council. Reading it, Ambassador Kethrai felt his worst fears coming true. Humans didn't just survive disasters. They got stronger from them. Back on New Harmony, General Ironwood was doing his own research. The old Corvan warrior had lived for 800 years. He remembered things the younger races had forgotten. In his private quarters, he opened files that had been sealed for 3,000 years. The records told of a great war, fought before most of the current council races had even learned to fly. The enemy had been called the Devourers. They came from outside the galaxy, hungry and smart, and totally without mercy. They didn't just conquer worlds, they absorbed them. Every race they defeated made them stronger, smarter, more dangerous. The war had lasted 500 years. Billions died. Whole species went extinct. In the end, the galaxy won only because the Devourers made a mistake. They attacked too many worlds at once and spread themselves too thin. Or so everyone thought. General Ironwood looked at the old battle reports and compared them to the new data about humans. The similarities made his old heart beat faster. The Devourers had been adaptable. Humans were adaptable. The Devourers had been aggressive. Humans were aggressive. The Devourers had spread fast across space. Humans were spreading fast across space. But there was one big difference. The Devourers had been purely destructive. They took everything and gave nothing back. Humans were different. They built things. They helped other species. They made places better, not worse. Maybe, General Ironwood said to himself, the galaxy sent us the cure before we knew we needed it. On Earth, President Mary Johnson sat in an emergency meeting with her top advisors. The message from Jake and Lisa had arrived 3 days ago. Earth's first contact with aliens was going badly. "They think we're dangerous," General Pete Anderson said. "Maybe they're right." "We are dangerous," President Johnson replied. "The question is, dangerous to who?" Dr. Nina Wells, Earth's top scientist, looked up from her computer. "I've been reading the reports. These aliens have been peaceful for thousands of years. They've never had to deal with real threats." "What? Do you mean real threats?" the president asked. "Look at their history. No wars, no disasters, no challenges. They've lived in a bubble for so long, they've forgotten that the universe is actually a dangerous place." General Anderson leaned back in his chair. "So what do we do? Pretend we're harmless?" "We can't," Dr. Wells said. "They're too smart for that. They already know what we are." President Johnson stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Washington, D.C. spreading into the distance. 7 billion humans lived on Earth, and billions more on colonies across the solar system. All of them were waiting to learn if they would be welcome in the galaxy. "Send Jake and Lisa everything," she said finally. "Our military files, our colony plans, our technology reports. All of it." "Ma'am?" General Anderson looked confused. "That could make things worse. Or it could make them better. If they're going to judge us, let them judge us for what we really are." The encrypted message reached New Harmony, just as Jake and Lisa were losing hope. The data package was enormous. Thousands of files containing details about every aspect of human civilization. "They sent us everything," Lisa said, staring at her computer screen. "Military plans, weapon designs, colony strategies, everything." Jake felt his heart sink. "We're supposed to prove we're peaceful. and Earth just sent them our entire war machine. But as they read through the files, they began to understand. The human military wasn't built for conquest. It was built for protection. Every weapon system was designed to defend, not attack. Every strategy was about keeping people safe. The colony plans showed the same thing. Humans didn't take over planets. They made dead worlds come alive. They turned empty space into homes for millions of people. Maybe the truth is our best defense, Lisa said. 2 days later, Captain Lucy Hayes arrived at New Harmony with 3 ships from Earth's defense fleet. Her orders were simple: get the diplomats home safely if things went bad. But Jake had other ideas. I want you to show them what human military really means, he told Lucy. Show them how? Training exercise. Let them watch how we fight. Lucy looked at him like he was crazy. You want me to prove we're peaceful by showing them our weapons? I want you to prove we're protectors by showing them how we protect. Captain. Hayes set up a mock battle in the space around New Harmony. Her ships played both attacker and defender, showing the aliens how humans fought. The alien observers expected to see brutal, aggressive tactics. Instead, they saw something that confused them. Human forces fought smart, not savage. They protected civilian areas. They tried to capture enemy ships instead of destroying them. When they did fight, it was precise and controlled. I don't understand, Ambassador Kethrai said, watching the exercise. They could have destroyed the enemy ships in the first few minutes. Why didn't they? General Ironwood smiled. Because they don't fight to kill. They fight to win. There's a difference. But even as Jake and Lisa worked to prove humanity's good intentions, reports were coming in from the edge of the galaxy. Long-range sensors were detecting something that made no sense. Energy signatures that matched. Old Devourer technology, ships, moving in patterns that the galaxy hadn't seen for 3,000 years. Something was coming back from the dark between galaxies, and it was heading straight for the heart of civilized space. General Ironwood looked at the sensor readings and felt fear touch his old warrior's heart. The galaxy's long peace was about to end. And when it did, they would need all the dangerous, adaptable, aggressive humans they could get. The space station called New Harmony floated in the dark between the stars. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Strange lights moved along its metal walls, and ships from many different worlds came and went like busy insects dotted inside the station. 12 different alien races had their meeting rooms. Each race looked very different from the others. Some had blue skin and 4 arms. Others looked like walking crystals that sparkled in the light. A few were so tall they had to bend down to fit through doorways. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the window of his small ship and looked at the station. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Carter checked her notes. For the 10th time that morning, this is it, Jake said. First time humans meet the Galactic Council. Lisa nodded, but did not look up from her papers. I hope they like us. Their ship moved slowly toward the docking bay. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never felt this nervous. Earth had sent them to make friends with the aliens. Everyone back home was excited. Finally, humans would join the big galactic family. The docking went well. Jake and Lisa walked through a long tunnel that led into the station. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Sounds came from everywhere. Clicks, whistles, and voices speaking in languages they could not understand. A tall blue alien met them at the entrance. He had 4 arms and big black eyes. When he spoke, his voice sounded like water flowing over rocks. I am Ambassador Kethrai, the alien said. Welcome to New Harmony. Please follow me. Jake and Lisa walked behind him through wide halls. Other aliens stopped to stare at them. Some pointed with fingers, claws, or tentacles. A few made sounds. That might have been talking about them. Are we famous already? Lisa whispered to Jake. Something like that, Jake whispered back. But he was starting to worry. The aliens did not look happy to see them. They came to a big round room with a high ceiling. 12 different aliens sat at a curved table that went almost all the way around the room. Jake and Lisa were shown to 2 small chairs in the middle. It felt like being in a courtroom. Ambassador HFY took his place at the table. He looked at Jake and Lisa for a long moment before speaking. We called this special meeting to talk about your species, he said. Humans. The word sounded strange when he said it. Not friendly at all. We are happy to be here, Jake said. Earth wants to be friends with everyone. A crystal-like alien made a sound like breaking glass. Friends, it said, we have watched your people for 50 years. You do not act like friends. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. What do you mean? Another alien stood up. This one looked like a huge insect with green skin. Your people fight wars. You build weapons. You spread across your star system like a disease. Now wait a minute, Jake said, starting to get angry. We're not a disease. We're explorers. Explorers. With guns, said the crystal alien. Explorers with warships. Explorers who take what they want. An old alien that looked almost human, but with gray skin and white hair, raised his hand. Let them speak, friends. I want to hear what they say. Ambassador HFY nodded. Very well, General Ironwood. Humans, tell us about your wars. Jake looked at Lisa. They had known this question would come, but it still felt like a punch in the stomach. Yes, we have had wars, Jake said. But we learned from them. We made mistakes, but we got better. Better? The insect alien laughed, which sounded like clicking teeth. You still have armies on every world you live on. For protection, Lisa said. Not to attack anyone. Protection from what? Ambassador HFY asked. Space is peaceful. The galaxy has been at peace for 3,000 years. We didn't know that, Jake said. On Earth, we had to protect ourselves from wild animals, bad weather, and yes, sometimes from other humans. It's just how we learned to live. The crystal alien sparkled brighter. Our people removed the need for violence from our genes 2,000 years ago. We cannot even think about hurting others. Why didn't your people do this? Lisa stared at the alien. You changed your own bodies? On purpose? Of course, violence is a sickness. We cured ourselves. But, Lisa said slowly, what if something bad happens? What if someone attacks you? Nothing bad happens, Ambassador HFY said. The galaxy is safe. Everyone follows the rules. Everyone shares. Everyone helps each other. Jake felt like he was hearing about a fairy tale. That sounds nice, but what if it changes? What if someone breaks the rules? The aliens looked at each other. Some made worried sounds. Why would you think about such things? The insect alien asked. Only a violent species thinks about violence. Or, a smart species thinks about what could go wrong, said General Ironwood quietly. The other aliens turned to look at him, but he just smiled. Ambassador HFY stood up. We have reports about your colonies. You build them too fast. You make them too strong. You mine asteroids that other species are afraid to touch. You even built a base near a black hole. Because we can, Jake said. Because it's there. Because we want to learn and grow. You want to grow too much, the crystal alien said. Growth without limit is dangerous. The meeting went on for hours. The aliens asked about human history, human technology, human plans for the future. Every answer seemed to make them more worried. Finally, Ambassador HFY called for a break. Jake and Lisa were taken to a small room to wait. This isn't going well, Lisa said. Jake sat down heavily in a chair. They're scared of us. I can see it in their eyes, but we're not scary. We're just human. Maybe that's the problem. When they came back, all 12 alien ambassadors were waiting. Ambassador Kethrai stood up and spoke in a voice that filled the room. We have decided, he said. Your species shows dangerous signs. You grow too fast. You adapt too well. You think about violence, even when there is no need. You are too much like a species we once knew, a species that destroyed many worlds before we stopped them. Jake felt cold. What are you saying? We are placing humanity under protective observation. You will return to your own space. You will not expand beyond your current worlds. We will watch you and decide if you can ever be trusted. But that's not fair, Lisa said. We came here in peace. Peace with weapons, said the insect alien. Peace with armies. Peace with the eyes of a predator. General Ironwood leaned forward. I vote against this decision. Your vote is noted but overruled, Ambassador Kethrai said. 11 votes to 1. The humans have 30 galactic standard days to prove they are not a threat. If they cannot, the quarantine becomes permanent. Jake stood up. His face was red with anger and shame. You're making a mistake. You don't understand us at all. We understand enough, Ambassador Kethrai said. The meeting is over. As Jake and Lisa walked back to their ship, General Ironwood caught up with them. Do not give up hope, he said. Quietly, some of us remember what it means to be strong. Some of us think the galaxy might need strong people again someday. Jake looked at the old alien warrior. What do you mean? But General Ironwood just smiled and walked away, leaving Jake and Lisa alone with 30 days to save their species' future.